It's September 29th, 1994, next to last day of Fort Ord's existence. You have the lovely Laura.
Thank you.
This is the lovely Laura's area.
It's a pit, Tim.
This is the way it always looks.
Oh, he's full of shit. His area was worse than mine. Look at that crap.
Mine's an organized mess.
An organized mess. Huh. Are you gonna film everybody today?
Yeah, I thought I would.
You're the big filmer.
I think I would. I'd say this is an intelligence test to see how stupid you are.
We're filming.
No. Man. Drive on through, please. Shut up, boner.
This sucks. See Chuck at work? Good we captured this on film. We never know when we'll see it again.
Boy, there you go. That's.
I'm not filming you. I'm filming Marion.
Hi. Hello there.
No, it's goodbye, Miriam.
No.
Here's Upchuck. Damn!
That's on.
Renee, buddy.
Run. Run together. Oh, I'm sorry.
With the suit. Yeah, that's what nobody even noticed It's a big old eyeball. I know, that's why it's too. That's why
Hey, man, there's trouble. There's trouble.
You like this to set us I kept the last one.
You're not filming, are you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Anybody else want to go up? Let's go.
How you doing, Bob? So how's everything? Everybody at the Navy already, or just here today? No, Monday. Monday.
We're all unemployed.
Unemployed?
Yeah.
You're going to get paid for it.
As of the end of the ceremony.
Next 6 hours, we're all unemployed.
So all of you looking at
Where's the camera?
you know, at my house yesterday.
Well, I'm taller than
Just like color guard and stuff.
Thumbs on the whole way.
Make that 2 copies? Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta pay for it though.
Yeah, he's going all
Ooh, you extra.
That's really point how many seconds? Right out here. Yeah, that one is like sorry, sir. Not yet. Actually, the hardest I cried about it before. You are so much. It wasn't glorious. I think that's when I cried. I think that was. All I could tell by that smile, he wants to go.
I should take this Monday. Monday, how you doing? How you doing?
I want to
I'll make a quick getaway.
Which one?
Which one do you think I did?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fort Ord. Today's ceremony marks the official closure of Fort Ord as an Army installation and brings to an end a period of 77 years of cooperation between the military personnel assigned to Fort Ord and the people of the Monterey Peninsula. During today's ceremony, we will take a look back at some of the highlights of that era and bid farewell to an old friend. The host officer for today's event is Colonel Thomas F. Elzey, Jr., the commander of Fort Ord. The reviewing officer is General Dennis J. Reimer, commander of the United States Army Forces Command, headquartered at Fort McPherson, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the reviewing party. In accordance with military tradition, the 6th United States Army Band will play Ruffles and Flourishes and the General's March, and the 3rd U.S. Artillery Battery L&M will fire a 17-gun salute to honor General Reimer on the occasion of his visit to Fort Ord for today's ceremony. Military personnel will render the hand salute during the rendering of honors to General Reimer.
Oh, remember this?
Of what?
Those guys?
Picture of the smoke.
Yeah. Bob, put your cigarette out.
Please be seated.
Wish I hadn't had that 12-pack of beer last night.
Yeah, how many would you like?
If the individual who owns the car with the alarm would like to go turn it off, we would all appreciate it. At this time, we would like to welcome the 6th United States Army Band under the direction of Chief Warrant Officer 4 Orville L. Gannon, Jr. The drum major is Specialist Terry A. Campbell. The band today represents the significant role that the drum, the fife, and other musical instruments have played throughout military history for signaling in camp or on the battlefield. The 6th United States Army Band is headquartered at the Presidio of San Francisco. The band will return to San Francisco immediately following this morning's activities to participate in the inactivation of the garrison assigned to Presidio of San Francisco. which is a ceremonial unit of the National Civil War Association composed of volunteers interested in educating others on the American Civil War period through living history and mock battle demonstrations. The San Jose chapter of the California Historical Group is located to the immediate right of the bleachers in World War II era uniforms. This group, led by Jay Lance, also serves to educate the people of California on the historical significance and role of the military in our society. Both of these groups will remain in place after the ceremony to allow members of our audience an opportunity to take a closer look at their equipment and to answer any questions about their units or about the military eras they represent here today. The vehicles on display to the front and those in back of the bleachers were provided by the United States Army Reserves, the California Army National Guard, and Fort Hunter Liggett. Uniforms for today's historical segment were provided by Major Jerry Lee of What Price Glory in Salinas, California. We would also like to acknowledge the Seaside High School Junior ROTC Detachment under the direction of Sergeant Major retired Eugene Street and commanded by Cadet Major Alex Fulmer. Our thanks to the cadets of the Spartan Battalion who provided their assistance this morning. Also with us are representatives of local veterans groups who are here to assist as ushers for the ceremony and reception, as well as participating in the honor detail, which will participate in the final retreat later in the ceremony. This group, coordinated by the Fort Ord Retirees Council, chaired by Major General retired William H. Gorley, consists of members of local American Legion posts, veterans of foreign war posts, Vietnam veterans groups, and the Purple Heart Association of the Monterey Peninsula. The color guard is provided by Company A, United States Army Garrison, and is commanded by Sergeant Major Richard Higdon, the Garrison Sergeant Major. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the posting of the colors and remain standing for the invocation and the national anthem. Today's invocation is being delivered by Chaplain Michael Kirkley, who attended infantry basic training at Fort Ord in 1963, prior to his decision to attend seminary and receive a commission as an Army chaplain. Chaplain Kirkley.
Let us pray. O God, our Father, supreme ruler of the universe, we give humble thanks to Thee for our preservation as a nation, our prosperity as a nation, and for every advance in virtue and intelligence that has marked our growth as a people. We render special thanks, O God, on this solemn occasion for those faithful men and women who, as soldiers of our great United States Army, have these last 77 years served here at Fort Ord, so that each of us might enjoy freedom and opportunity in our great land. We must be thankful for every soldier who left these training fields and entered every battlefield and laid their life down for their friends and family. Keep us ever mindful that in the final choice, a soldier's pack is not so heavy a burden as a prisoner's chains. Almighty God, as the colors are folded for the last time at this post, teach us to move on in service, not counting the costs, to fight for freedom and not heed the wounds, to labor and not to ask for any reward, save that of knowing that we do Thy will. Amen.
The national anthem will be sung this morning by Ms. Norma Jean Hodges of Carmel, California. She will be accompanied by the 6th United States Army Band.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask you now to take a walk with us down memory lane as we briefly review some of the highlights of Fort Ord's history. Appearing before you on the field at this time are Fort Ord soldiers and civilians dressed in several of the various uniforms worn by soldiers assigned here during the past 77 years. As we retrace Fort Ord's history on the Monterey Peninsula through 21 significant periods, the 3rd United States Artillery, Battery L&M, will fire a single round to commemorate each period, our own 21-gun salute to Fort Ord and its past. In 1917, the War Department purchased 15,000 acres of land from the David Jacks Corporation to be used as a maneuver area and field artillery range for the 11th Cavalry and the 76th Horse-Drawn Field Artillery stationed at the Presidio of Monterey. The price for this parcel of sagebrush and sand dunes was $162,000. Named Camp Giggling after a German rancher who once owned the land, the new reservation soon became a hubbub of activity for soldiers preparing to go to Europe with the U.S. Expeditionary Forces. Representing the horse cavalry that played so prominent a role in the early history of our Army is Sergeant First Class James McPeak aboard his trusty mount, Arcara. As the Giggling Reservation grew and expanded, soldiers were trained in basic infantry and cavalry tactics. Those soldiers who trained here at Fort Ord lived in tents bivouacked throughout the area now known as East Garrison. Corporal Robert Mullins is dressed in a typical uniform of the World War I era. Soldiers such as he left Camp Giggling in time to participate in the final battles of World War I, to include the Battle of the Marne and the Loire Valley Campaign, and they were there when the armistice was signed on 11 November 1918. Following the First World War, the Army saw a significant drawdown. For years, virtually no improvements were made to Giggling Reservation. In 1933, the name of the post was officially changed to Camp Ord in honor of Major General Edward Otho Cresap Ord, who came to the Monterey Peninsula as a young artillery lieutenant in 1847 and supervised the construction of the fortifications on the hillside overlooking Monterey Bay that would later be known as the Presidio of Monterey. Ord would later rise to the rank of general during the Civil War, and he returned to California in 1868, where he remained until his retirement in 1880. The first permanent construction on the reservation began in 1938 under the direction of Colonel Homer Groninger. With the aid of the Works Progress Administration and an initial appropriation of $800,000, a camp was built 1 mile east of the Giggling Railroad spur, and the area was cleared for the construction of concrete mess halls and wooden barracks. In 1940, the 7th Infantry Division was activated at Camp Ord, and the name of the post was officially changed to Fort Ord. Also in 1940, work began on the $1 Million Soldiers Club overlooking Monterey Bay, a project conceived by General Joseph W. Stilwell, commander of the 7th Infantry Division. The building was financed by donations from soldiers and WPA grants and would later be named Stilwell Hall in honor of General Vinegar Joe Stilwell. With the outbreak of World War II, Fort Ord quickly expanded. Additional land was purchased, bringing the total area to 29,600 acres. The post became a major staging area for units deployed to the Pacific. Construction began on temporary barracks to billet the large influx of soldiers. Many of those temporary barracks remain here today. Numerous units deployed to the Pacific from Fort Ord during World War II, and the strength of the installation averaged about 35,000 troops. However, at its peak, Fort Ord housed more than 50,000 soldiers during the World War II era. With this large influx of soldiers, the need for contact with home saw a need for the American Red Cross. Representing the thousands of Red Cross volunteers who provided comfort and assistance to the soldiers at Fort Ord in World War II is Ms. Frances Sutherland of the Fort Ord Chapter, American Red Cross. Following its reactivation at Fort Ord in 1940, the 7th Infantry Division initially trained in the Mojave Desert in Camp Pendleton. In 1943, the 7th returned to Fort Ord for final training before being deployed into the Aleutians, the only unit to deploy directly into combat during World War II. The division saw extensive action throughout the Pacific and would become the occupation force following the fall of Japan in 1945. Representing these soldiers is Staff Sergeant Hector Garza, who was in the uniform of the 7th Infantry Division during World War II. During the war, Fort Ord served the additional function of detention center for prisoners of war from both the European and Pacific theaters. Prisoners from the Axis nation were interred here from early in 1943 through Victory in Europe and Victory in Japan days in 1945. Many of these prisoners assisted in the maintenance of the post facilities, and a number of the former PWs would return to the California area following repatriation to establish a life in post-war California. At the conclusion of World War II, the post became a major processing center for the release of personnel from the Army and began the transition to peacetime. In 1947, the 4th Replacement Training Center assumed the function of operating Fort Ord and was given the mission of training replacements for the Army. Fort Ord was now identified as the Fort Ord Army Training Center, or ATC. Staff Sergeant Renee McBride, dressed in the uniform of the Women's Army